You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
T-Wolves get some swag back tonight. Domination versus the Lakers. Final score 109-80. What's going on? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves postcast right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Your team every day. Jack Borman with me as always. Give him a follow at JRBorman13. Tons to break down tonight, including the Wolves getting their defensive spark back. Plus, the bench's big night tonight. But first, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Game Time. Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, man. Wolves trying to build a little winning streak here. Feels like it's been a minute since we've even said that statement. Trying to feed off the win versus the Clippers. Obviously, that was Friday. Make it 2 in a row. Multiple lead changes in the first quarter, and then you get to the second quarter. They just start to clamp down on defense. They start to look like the old T-Wolves, right? Suffocating defense. Bench play was rock solid. Points off turnovers was tremendous. And the Wolves really run away with it, starting in the second quarter for their second win in a row. Kind of big picture here just to start, though, Jack. These last 2 wins, it almost, I don't want to get too dramatic. It feels like a completely new team, though, and it all starts on defense, right? 8 straight quarters, not allowing more than 25 points. That is music to people's ears. What has been the big catalyst, and I guess how encouraging is that now moving forward? Like, how much can 2 games really move the needle for you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think 2 games can certainly move the needle for you when you've been stuck in the mud the way the Timberwolves have for the better part of of the last month or so, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this was kind of a reason why we started to talk about it after that Rockets game last Tuesday night, that I thought we might have started to see a turning point, or remember that as a turning point for the Wolves. And I certainly think that that's been fair to say. I think the biggest reason why I thought that might have been a turning point was because you really saw in that third quarter, the defense kind of found its fastball like it did last season, and was tremendous for the better part of last season as a historically great defense. And they were just a team that flew around a ton, forced a ton of deflections, kept teams away from the rim, forced teams to play below the 3-point line, and just made teams take tough shots, right? And played excellent isolation defense. And that's what we saw a lot of tonight, and what we saw certainly a lot of, against the Clippers on Friday, and even against the Kings for the better part of that entire game, until Malik Monk went crazy there in the fourth quarter. So I certainly see when you look at these last, 6 games, Luke, they've allowed under 110 points or 110 or fewer points in 4 of those games, and they've allowed 117 or less in all 6 of them. I certainly think that that's certainly something that you want to be able to build off. And tonight specifically, we can dive into the numbers a little bit, in that I thought, again, the Timberwolves' lowest points they've allowed in a game all year with 80, second straight game of sub 100 points, which was a staple of last year's team, as we saw. And really, I just thought that their activity level defensively was fantastic for the majority of this game. I think outside of Jaden McDaniels letting D'Angelo Russell get going early on, I really thought that everyone up and down the roster played good defense for the most part of the game. I think, you saw, again, guys do an excellent job of forcing drivers into where they had help, to force LA to play in the mid-range a little bit, and didn't allow LA to get to the rim for all that many shots. LA obviously made damn near everything that they put up at the rim, but what did they shoot at the rim? They shot 17 of 20 at the rim. But again, what did we see from last year's Timberwolves team? They did a great job, and this is what drop coverage can do, especially when you've got Rudy Gobert down low, Jaden McDaniels up top, Karl-Anthony Towns in that low man role. You do a great job of taking away shots at the rim and taking away corner threes. The Lakers only took 20 shots at the rim tonight. That's a great number. And they only took 3 corner threes all night, and they missed all 3 of them. They did not make a single corner three. I cannot remember the last time I watched an NBA game and a team did not make a corner three, and a team only shot 3 corner threes all game.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that Dalton Connect had at least 2 of them in the first quarter. So for the Wolves to allow one corner 3-point shot over 3 quarters and change is tremendous defense. And again, another staple of last year's team was how many shots they forced teams to take in that short mid-range area instead of getting all the way to the rim. And that's kind of what Rudy Gobert does. And in that short mid-range area, which is from 4 to 14 feet, so outside the restricted area, but below the free throw line, the Lakers were 4 of 19 for 21%. So if you can force teams to live there and then force teams to take their threes from above the break, which the Lakers did tonight, 28 of their 33 three-point attempts came from above the break tonight. They were 6 of 28, which is 21% from 3, which is exactly what you want. And obviously, I think, we talked about it before we went live here, that this was a Lakers team that very clearly was on the second night of a back-to-back.
Yeah.
They played last night in altitude in Utah. They had no business winning that game. For those of you who did not see it, kind of a bizarre ending that we rarely see in the NBA, where Jazz coach Will Hardy called a timeout with under 3 seconds left, kind of as one of his players was getting ready to take a shot down 1. Colin Sexton makes the shot, but the officials wave it off because Will Hardy called a timeout. So the Lakers ended up winning that game by 1. Got pretty fortunate. And, like you said, in hindsight, maybe you don't play LeBron James or Anthony Davis if this was what, your team was going to put forward tonight. But another big takeaway for me coming into this game, these were two teams that play very different styles of basketball. The Lakers are in the bottom 10%, the bottom 10 in the league in terms of percentage of points that they score in the paint. They're in the top 10 in percentage of points they score in the paint, percentage of points they score from the free throw line, fast break scoring, and they're in the bottom 10% in terms of how much of their offense comes from the 3-point line. And the Timberwolves are the exact opposite. They're bottom 10 in those first 4 categories, and they are top 10 in terms of their offense from 3. And the Lakers this season have been bottom 5 in defense all year because they've really struggled to rebound, which is something that we've curiously seen in the LeBron, Anthony Davis minutes. That they've actually been a negative in those minutes for the most part this year. And the Lakers really coming in did not turn the ball over. I'm pretty sure that the Lakers were top 5 in terms of their turnover percentage as a team. And tonight they end up having 21 turnovers for 26 points. And again, another area that the Lakers normally win is they normally win in transition. They do a good job of forcing turnovers and converting those turnovers into points. And then obviously when you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis and Austin Reeves, you've got 3 really, really good transition players that are going to create a lot of opportunities for you there. But in 4 key areas tonight: paint points, the Wolves won 50-40. Fast break points, the Wolves won 18-7. Points off of turnovers, they won 26-17. And in turnovers forced, they won 21-15. Those are 4 areas that the Lakers normally control in a game, and they normally win. For the Wolves to win all 4 of those and outscore the Lakers 45-18 from the 3-point line, that's all the recipe that you want for an excellent win. And that's exactly what we got here at Target Center, who in front of a crowd that was very appreciative of the effort that this team put forth, and something that we haven't necessarily seen over the better part of this homestand, with the Timberwolves getting booed off the floor into halftime a couple of times, and Anthony Edwards among those in the locker room that have taken exception to that. So it was nice to see the crowd really show their appreciation for how hard this team played tonight.
The bench play, as you pointed out, DiVincenzo, Naz Reid, Noth, they were lights out, right? You already kind of touched on the stats of just how dominating the Wolves bench was. Double the points, actually over double the points versus the Lakers bench. Felt like the night, though, we've been banging the table for DiVincenzo, right? 11 points, 9 assists, couple big 3 balls in the mix. How much more different and deadly, right? Like, what's the ceiling when DiVincenzo looks like the guy that we thought we were getting during that trade when it all went down? Obviously, there's been a lot of moving parts. We've kind of had to wait for things to mesh together a little bit, but definitely a slow, frustrating start when it comes to the DiVincenzo era in Minnesota. Tonight, though, looked like the guy we thought we were getting. How great and encouraging was that to see? And again, what's the ceiling look like with this bench and this entire offense, for that matter, when DiVincenzo's playing the way he did tonight?
He sure did, Luke. But I honestly may flip that on its head a little bit. And I don't necessarily think what the ceiling is quite as important as what I think the floor is.
Sure.
When Dante DiVincenzo is playing the way that he is. Because Anthony Edwards, had 8 points on 3 of 13 shooting, had as many turnovers as he had made shots. And it was the first time he had been held under 10 points since March 27th against the Pistons. He did not play in the fourth quarter, so that's obviously important context here. Only played 27 minutes. But again, if Anthony – but, I mean, outside of that, Anthony Edwards, outside of Jaden McDaniels, was the worst player in the Timberwolves rotation tonight. Just did not really impact the game outside of his 7 rebounds. And I think in nights like that, if you're going to get Donte DiVincenzo looking like very confident Donte DiVincenzo that we saw in a Knicks jersey the second half of last season and into the playoffs, where he's confidently putting the ball on the deck after playing off the catch and making smart reads and finding guys all over the floor, whether it be a big guy inside for a dunk, whether it be driving into the lane and then hitting a reverse pass out to the part of the court that he just drove from for open threes. We saw him do that for Mike Conley a couple times, for Nickeil Alexander once or twice. And then for him also to be able to make the corner kickout passes, all those things that we saw him do in New York that really stimulate a lot of good ball movement and kinetic energy in the offense. That's certainly encouraging for Timberwolves fans. I thought this was the most confident that DiVincenzo has looked all season, both as a shooter and as a playmaker. I think, we've talked about Donte struggling to fit in a little bit as a playmaker, considering that isn't necessarily something that he was asked to do a whole lot of in New York. But tonight he had 6 assists in that first stint that he had. He had no turnovers. It just felt like he was making simple reads and doing things that come naturally to him. And he showed in New York. It wasn't like he was doing anything out of this world or anything, extraordinary as a lead playmaker or as a, floor general. It was just making simple basketball plays. And I think that's what Chris Finch wants to create a lot of opportunities for, is for guys to just make simple basketball plays, right? You get the ball, you can do 3 things with it. You can shoot it, you can pass it, or you can put it on the deck. And I think DiVincenzo made the right decision when he was presented with those opportunities almost every single time. And I think, obviously you're not going to get 9 assists, which was a team high and a career high for DiVincenzo in the Timberwolves uniform. You're not going to get that every night. But I think if you can consistently get him, 3, 4, 5 assists and 1 or max of 2 turnovers just by making simple basketball plays, I think that's going to do a lot, not only for the Timberwolves, offense necessarily with him as a scorer, but I think it can help create open shots for Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Naz Reid, who had 15 points apiece off the bench tonight. And so when you look at those 3 combining for 41 points, on what do we have here? We have 16 of 29 or 30, 16 of 30 shooting. And they all shot collectively 7 for 17 from 3. That's an excellent night. And I think if Donte DiVincenzo can continue to be the connective piece that we saw tonight and look really confident when he's shooting the ball. I think earlier in the season, I've told you, I don't know whether it's on camera or off camera, that the ball just hasn't looked good coming off his hand and just kind of looks like, a throw from a quarterback that just looks really unsure of himself with the throws that he's making. And that certainly was not the case for DiVincenzo tonight. I think he's looked much better as the team has found a little bit, more heart and compete level on the defensive end of the floor. And you can kind of feel that energy that they're creating on the defensive end translate into guys playing with a little bit more confidence offensively. So obviously a great sign for DiVincenzo. And one other thing that I don't know that is was evident on the TV broadcast, since I'm here at Target Center and was watching up close. There's nobody happier for Donte DiVincenzo kind of breaking through the yips that he's battling and finding his rhythm more than Anthony Edwards. When Donte DiVincenzo, made a 3 earlier in the first half, Anthony Edwards was, halfway out out onto the floor cheering for Donte, that forced a Lakers timeout, and he was loving him up. And that was fantastic. And then same thing happened in that play in the second half where LeBron tried to throw a Hail Mary pass to the, all the way across the floor, and DiVincenzo,
that was great,
kind of full extension, knocked it away with his right hand. And then it led to a trailer transition 3. Ant was on the court as the ball was going up the other way, and then just sat there like with his jaw on the floor as the Donte 3 rained in. So I think these Timberwolves really understand that Donte DiVincenzo is a great basketball player, that he was tremendous in New York last season, and that he obviously was struggling with some confidence a little bit early on in his Timberwolves tenure, but they know what he's capable of, and they're certainly trying to breathe as much confidence into him as they can. So that's been a lot of fun to see, and it was fun to see those guys, really celebrate Dante breaking through, and the fans as well. I think that they cheered extra loud when he made plays and made shots. So that was a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, a lot of fun, a lot of team camaraderie going on tonight, which you love to see. Like you said, a lot of great team chemistry and just a lot of overall getting their swag back a little bit, which was a breath of fresh air for sure. All right, plenty more deep dive. I want to talk about Rudy Gobert's night versus Anthony Davis. It was fantastic. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And now for a limited time, FanDuel's giving you a chance at a huge return with $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 bet. Just go find a great easy money line to wager on. Plus, with FanDuel, when you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can go check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Again, $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 bet. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Get in some on NBA future action while you're there. Anthony Edwards MVP odds, just pulling it up 10-1, still sitting at 10-1. Feels like some good value. It's all sitting up over at FanDuel.com. Again, check it all out over at FanDuel.com and get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed with your first $5 win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Okay, so last time we saw these two teams, AD, Anthony Davis, was an absolute monster, right? Just a men among boys out there. This time, tonight, Rudy Gobert actually outplayed. He went toe for toe and outplayed the dude for 4 quarters. Granted, okay, 3.5 quarters, call it. But how impressive was that? And just speak to, I guess, just in general, what you saw Rudy's night versus AD, Anthony Davis.
Yeah, no question. I think Rudy Gobert certainly set a tone early in this game. I want to say 4 of the first 5 shots that the Lakers took, including a foul that Anthony Davis drew, Rudy Gobert was contesting on him, and on the Lakers, and did a phenomenal job of deterring them from the rim and forcing tough shots. And then that short mid-range area, like we talked about earlier, that was kind of where it all started for Rudy. And then I think he got himself involved early on the offensive glass. He made some defense. I don't have the number in front of me in terms of how many, what offensive rebounds he had by quarter. But it certainly looked like he was making defensive rebounds a lot tougher for Anthony Davis and LeBron and Rui Hachimura and, Christian Coloco and some of the Lakers guys that were in there battling inside, and just kind of kept that activity level up all night long, and did a great job of rolling and and just being right around the rim when the Wolves were driving, so that he would be there to clean up different second chance opportunities. Again, made 3 of his 4 free throws. He continues to be excellent as a free throw shooter so far this season, and I was just really impressed with his activity level as a roller as well. I think he had 5 dunks tonight, which I'd be shocked if it is not a season high. And his teammates were looking for him. We saw that alley-oop in the 4th quarter. And I just think they did a good job of finding Rudy Gobert within the flow. And I think you don't want to force the ball to Rudy Gobert, in post-up situations, unless he's got a mouse in the house with a small guard on him or something like that. Then you certainly trust him to at least catch the ball, turn, and someone will wrap him up, or he can at least throw down a dunk over somebody. But again, I think they're finding him in much more efficient ways as a roller. He's getting in on the offensive glass and things that are just a little bit more repeatable, and I think allow the offense to remain a little bit more efficient and not quite get stuck in the mud, if you will. So that was really important. And I think too, just the way that Julius Randle is able to get into the kind of the mid post and bully some smaller guards while he was on the floor with Gobert, kind of allowed Rudy to be a little bit more aggressive on the offensive glass too, which is something that's important to note. I thought, this was a perfectly fine game from Julius Randle. He had 18 points on 6 of 13 shooting, and I thought did a good job of capitalizing on switches that came his way. And the Wolves did a good job of trying to find him, especially in parts of that 2nd quarter where he was able to get to the free throw line and draw some fouls, which I certainly think helped Rudy as well. And I'd be remiss too if I didn't mention Mike Conley in this. I
I
think
was
the
just
Wolves
going to
did
bring him up too, man, because he's going to get glossed over. But yes, I'm very interested what you have to say for him. He deserves some flowers as well.
Yeah, I just think that the Wolves, when Mike was gone, they really missed a guy that they could just get the ball to and trust that he would make the right decision, whether it was for him to be aggressive, like we saw at the start of the second quarter when he made those 2 threes and had a few great passes to open up some shots for his teammates. But it's just kind of knowing, okay, Rudy's really battling on the other end of the floor. How can we get in formation or run something here that would get him a touch, whether it's on the roll or on a lob or in a dump off situation. And so I think he just has such a high level understanding of knowing when to call a certain guy's number and how to do it. And we really saw that in the second quarter. And I think that level of that level of efficiency in those moments when he was on the floor tonight was really, really strong. And it, really does bear out. I know sometimes we look at plus minus and we say, I don't know if it necessarily felt that way, but it certainly felt like the Timberwolves were a plus 21 when Mike Conley was on the floor. And again, 6 assists. He did have 2 turnovers, but again, those are both numbers that you'll take from Mike Conley and made 3 of his 6 shots from deep. I think his 3-point shot. I know we've talked a little bit about his wrist that he's had an issue with and is going to play through all season, but it certainly looks like he's at least finding a way to manage that left wrist a little bit better than maybe he did earlier on in the season, or maybe he's just kind of gotten used to it by now. Or where it does look like that 3-point shot is returning to levels that we saw last season and the season before after he arrived in a trade from Utah. So for Mike Conley to play as efficiently as he did, I don't know if that rubbed off on the other 2 pseudo point guards that the Wolves have and Dante DiVincenzo and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but for all of them to combine tonight for 20, I think they had what they have here. They had 19 assists and 3 turnovers. You will certainly take that on a night that Rob Dillingham did not play with that right ankle sprain. It's the same ankle that he turned in that Toronto win back on November 21st. So that's obviously a good thing. And but just to tie it all back to Rudy Gobert, I think he really made Anthony Davis frustrated all night long. And again, kept Anthony Davis away from the rim. And the more that you can keep Anthony Davis away from the rim and shooting mid-range jump shots, you'll take it. Even if he's making them, there's certainly shots that you'd rather have him taking than being able to get to the free throw line and draw fouls. So for Anthony Davis and LeBron to combine for 22 points on 8 of 30 shooting, 0 of 6 from 3, and only shoot 8 free throws, you'll certainly take that going up against the Lakers. And that's certainly a very good recipe for holding an offense that can explode to just 80 points.
Yeah, well said. Great breakdown there. A couple minutes left. Let's talk about this Clippers game coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by BetterHelp. When your schedule is packed with, could be work projects, whatever it may be, it's easy to let your priorities start to slip, right? Even when we know what makes us happy. But when you feel like you got no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy, they're more important than ever. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, it's time to give BetterHelp a try. Entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your schedule. So simple. All you got to do, you fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched up with the licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Go visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/lockedon for 10% off your first month. BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, so you got the Clippers up next. We obviously just saw these guys, right? That game was great. Came down to the wire. Game 2 now, the rematch. I guess top 2 or 3 things you're just kind of most keyed in on for that one coming up, and how interesting, I guess, or what's the dynamic when you play a team so frequently within a week of each other? How much really changes, do you think, coaching aspect-wise, right, from the lens of Coach Finch? How much can you really switch up when you just saw a team just a few nights ago? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to switch up a whole lot, frankly. I'd expect Norman Powell to be back for LA, who's a 20 points per game scorer, who's been phenomenal so far this season. So that certainly will change the calculus a little bit for Minnesota defensively, and will make it a little bit tougher for them to key in on James Harden, who's been on an absolute reign of terror.
Heater.
That looking like prime James Harden of late. Had a monster game last night. So that'll be really important. I think if they can hold one of James Harden or Norman Powell down, I think that this will be another opportunity for their defense to really shine once again, because again, you're going to play guys like Terrence Mann and Chris Dunn and Derek Jones Jr. and Zubac and maybe Jordan Miller, Mo Bamba, guys that just aren't great 3-point shooters or don't want to take a lot of threes. So that's going to be important. Again, it's another recipe for the Wolves where it's going to be a lot of pick and roll from a Clippers team, regardless of whether the ball's in, James Harden's hand, Amir Coffey, Kevin Porter, Bones Highland, if he gets back in the rotation. So it's just going to be, can they keep the Clippers below the 3-point line and out of the rim or away from the rim, kind of like we saw tonight. I think that'll be really important. And then again, it should be a good matchup for Anthony Edwards. There's not really a perfect one-to-one guy for the Clippers to defend him with. We all saw what Ant did for stretches against Derek Jones Jr. Against the Mavericks in the playoffs last season. And Chris Dunn is just a little too small for Anthony Edwards, and Amir Coffey is a little too frail for a guy his size to be able to contend with Anthony Edwards for 38, 40 minutes. So I think, again, if you can get Ant going early, and then you can get Naz going, it's another good matchup for Naz. And then hope that Nickeil and Dante continue their stellar play off the bench. I think that the Timberwolves will be just fine. I think that Rudy Gobert and Zubac probably wipe each other out in terms of, they've both been really strong rim protectors and rebounders and pretty much play the same role for their respective teams. So I think, if you can get a guy like Jaden McDaniels to play, better than what we've seen from him the last week or 10 days or so, get him a little bit more involved offensively. I think it's just going to come down to, can Ant beat Harden one-on-one in that individual matchup, if you will, in terms of production, and then can guys like Jaden McDaniels and maybe Dante DiVincenzo outscore guys like Amir Coffey and Kevin Porter Jr. or Nick Batum on the periphery of this matchup. So again, I do think that it does provide some fun when you see a team twice in a span of a week. Because you can kind of get a good impression of who's able to at least stick to their game plan and execute it a little bit better, or hey, maybe a coach, you kind of see like what you would see maybe in a playoff series where there's small things that you like to tweak or tinker with. So I'm not quite as much of a fan of playing a team 3 times in a week like they did with Portland, especially when you lose 2 of them in pretty unfortunate fashion. But this should be fun. I've really enjoyed watching the Clippers so far this season, and I think that it'll be another good test for the Wolves defense to see if they can continue that activity and flying around. And and I think what they really need to do as well is just defend more in a pick and roll concept and really, I think, shore up what they want to do in pick and roll coverage and get back to, what we saw more of last season, which is Rudy Gobert playing a little bit more up and Julius Randle really being able to key in as the low man, rotate a little bit, defend the rim and stay disciplined off the ball defensively. We saw have a couple of slip ups there, like one that resulted in Rui Hachimura dunk in that, early in that third quarter that produced quite a facial expression from Anthony Edwards. So I think, again, playing another team second time and really fourth time in 4 games now, playing against really a lot. What is it? Rockets, Kings, Clippers, Lakers, Clippers, 5 games where the opponent's running a ton of pick and roll. So that also could be part of why they're starting to shore up their defenses. They're just getting more reps against offenses that like to do a similar thing, play in pick and roll, which is the most common action in the NBA. So hopefully we continue to see the Timberwolves defense trend in a good direction. And then, who knows? This should also be around at the time that we're going to start to hear about the arbitration for the fight for who will own the Timberwolves. So that's also news that may come out over the next week or 10 days or so after those hearings took place here in Minneapolis last month. So we'll see. obviously not gonna speculate until we have any
No.
type of decision there, but certainly something that I think will have an impact on how the Timberwolves move forward here.
I just want to note as well, we talked about seeing the same team multiple times within a short frequency of obviously days and games, right? Well, after this Clippers game, you're going to see Golden State not twice, but 3 times in the following 4 games. 2 versus Golden State, then the Knicks game, which is obviously going to be exciting. Tons of storylines there. And then Golden State again.
And
that's
Saturday,
an interesting, December 21st. Yeah.
That's an interesting timing too, because Draymond Green is going to miss some time with, sounds like, with a calf injury.
Interesting.
So who knows if they're going to, I know that Steve Kerr said today he's doubtful to play tomorrow against the Nuggets. And it sounds like he didn't sound too optimistic about it and sound like they wanted to be cautious with it. So we'll see what that ends up meaning. But the Warriors have been playing like a 12 and 13 man rotation for stretches of the year. And I know obviously they're out without DeAnthony Melton for the rest of the year with a sprained ACL. So that'll be kind of an interesting game in terms of what that rotation might look like and how many different lineup combinations we see from the Warriors over that week. But certainly interesting times in Wolves world, and hopefully they can this can be the last time the Wolves are not below, at or below 500 for the rest of the season.
Preach it, brother. Great stuff, man. As always, Wolves make it 2 in a row. Final score tonight, 109-80. They moved to 10-10 on the year. As always, huge shout out to all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen, and all the guys coming in the chat, venting with us from game to game, sometimes even celebrating after a win like tonight. Make sure you make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Go follow Jack and all his work on X at JR Borman 13. He's live from the Target Center every home game. Wolves versus the Clippers. That's Wednesday night. Late one, 9:30 p.m. tip-off. But we'll catch you right here. Same time, same place. But until then, signing.